bring this loud, angry music to you out there.
Bands singing about nothing against dragons and mountains, etc.,
Yeah.
but more like not reflecting society or standing on a stage or say something simple like racism,
Yep.
for instance, something like that. Do you see also something like that?
Moshpit passion, for the passion of the music.
Herzlich willkommen hier bei Moshpit Passion auf YouTube. Ich bin der Kajo und wie ihr sehen könnt, ich bin nicht alleine hier und neben mir der liebe Igor Cavalera. Der ist nämlich auf Tour mit seinem Vater und seinem Onkel zusammen, mit den Cavaleras. Sie spielen ihre ersten beiden Alben, besser gesagt die EP und das erste Album. Nichtsdestotrotz spielte liebe Igor mit seinem Vater auch gemeinsam in einer Band, die nennt sich Go Ahead and Die. Da sprechen wir gleich drüber. Und bevor wir darauf eingehen, möchte ich so ein bisschen mit ihm über die Anfänge tatsächlich sprechen. Und dafür wechsle ich jetzt nun ins Englische. Ihr könnt aber weiterschauen, nämlich hier unten seht ihr das Ganze übersetzt. So, Igor, my first question is, do you remember the first time you went actually on tour? And you were like, okay, this is not my home. I'm somewhere else. Do you remember that?
Honestly, no. I was very young when I first started, even as the infant, tiny little baby. But I do remember the first time that I was playing music and doing it that way, when I was about 12 years old. Those were some of my first memories, playing drums on stage. I was doing Troops of Doom, with Cavalera Conspiracy. That was sort of how I got my start with them. But no, my parents actually, they started taking me when I was a baby. There's actually some pictures of me with these big earmuffs on and stuff when I was a kid. So yeah, that's actually too far back for me to remember. So I've literally been doing this my whole life, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that on the Soulfly DVD. It's a lot of backstage material, and they showed also the kids how they grew up, and I remember that very well, that your parents put you and your brothers also on the tour bus on bus, and I was like, wow, it's very cool to see that the whole family is traveling around and seeing places around the country. Especially your mother is also having some kind of website where she posting about her history as a manager. I'm like, I never heard of that country.
Yeah.
They've been there. Very cool and nice.
Yeah, no, actually I was the kid who wanted to go on tour always. Any excuse to get out of school, I wanted to go, you know what I mean? So any chance I would get, I would go with them. Every summer, every winter break, things like that. I would take advantage of it. I loved being on the road at a very young age, definitely. So yeah, it started young for me.
And you have many brothers, your uncle's also a musician, your father also. What was actually your first instrument you picked up and learned or tried to play? Was it guitar, drums, bass?
It was guitar, actually. Yeah, growing up in this family, there was a guitar everywhere in the house, basically. So, yeah, it wasn't much of a decision. It was more like I just saw it sitting around, and I don't even know if it was in tune or if it was drop tuning or standard or whatever. But yeah, I picked it up, and it was so hard at first. I didn't know how to hold the pick. I didn't know what to do with this hand. I was like trying to figure it out, going a little crazy, and it took a lot of persistence and time. But yeah, I started with guitar. I think one of the first riffs I learned was Iron Man, and it took me about a month to get the hammer on, the Tony Iommi da-na-na-na-na kind of thing. That took about a month, but I think when I figured out that first riff, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to keep playing, and even though I started diving into other instruments like drums, and now I'm doing bass with Cavalera, guitar has always been the one that I come back to, that I feel like it is my favorite. That's my instrument, I feel like. So just having those guitars everywhere in the house, that was sort of what led me to picking it up and playing eventually.
I don't know if Lodi Kong was your first band or if you got before that any kind of I don't know, rehearsal band or something like that. But Lodi Kong was his first band. I remember you also released a record and did also a couple of tours with, I don't know if it was Soulfly or Cavalera Conspiracy, but you did a whole family package.
Yeah.
I remember that back in the day. And yeah, how was it for you then to stand on a stage and playing your own music and not like, covering songs, etc.?
Yeah, that was a very different experience. The first time I was on stage, like I said, was playing drums with Troops of Doom, which was actually just sort of a coincidence that happened. But yeah, Lodi Kong was not the very first band, but the first band that toured, that did recordings, that went on the road and played shows and did things like that. And it was spectacular, honestly. It's being on stage is one of those things that you just really, nothing compares to it. There's nothing that gives you that rush, that adrenaline, that intense feeling of everything, energy and power, strength, everything like that. And Lodi Kong was a little crazy. We were very young, very immature, we were definitely more focused on partying and having fun than being good at what we were playing. But it was an amazing learning experience. And, in my opinion, sometimes you need to make those mistakes to figure out what you want to do. And, Lodi Kong was definitely had some mistakes. I think even our very first demo wasn't even in tune. Didn't even sound right. I didn't even know how to do a chord properly, and it was such a learning experience the whole way through that it was just super influential to me and to my sound and everything, and like I said, there was bands before that, but that was the first time we were like serious about it,
And after that, I don't know how to say it. We all know what happened in 23 years ago. And during this time period, you and your father started this kind of band right here. And I want to know, how was it like to say, hey, let's do a band together? Or was it your father who came up with this idea? How was it back then?
It was my idea first. I started the idea, and it was funny. It was actually something we were talking about for a couple of years. I think we started talking about it in like 2016 or 2017, sometime around then. But, it was something that we wanted to share because we were both very into, obviously early heavy metal like Celtic Frost and Venom and stuff like that. But on the flip side of it, we were both very into punk, particularly crust punk and stuff like that, like Discharge and Doom. And, for me, those were some of my earliest influences, some of my, I guess you could say, starter bands for heavy music. And, that was the idea at first. It was like, let's take early heavy metal, let's take crust punk, even early death metal stuff like Death and Obituary and stuff like that. It was all these things that we both enjoyed sharing. We were like, let's just mash it all together and make something crazy out of it. But yeah, it wasn't until 2020 that we would be able to work on it. My dad being as busy as he is, between Soulfly, Cavalera, Killer Be Killed, all these different projects that he's constantly working on, it was very hard to find the free time to make this album. And that was, I guess you could say, kind of a blessing of the pandemic and COVID and everything, was we finally had the opening to make this record. And, we were locked inside, everything was closed, there was no concerts, there was no touring, there was no, especially with music, there was nothing going on. So we said, why don't we take this time and finally make this record? And that was how it started. We were actually at our house, which is kind of in the middle of the desert in Arizona. Very quiet, very boring, honestly, not much to do. And we sat day after day for probably 3 months, making demos. We did it all very DIY. It was with a drum machine and this old Korg 12-track that my father's done a lot of recordings on. But that pandemic actually gave us the opening to do it and gave us the time to do it. And by the time we finished the record, I think we were both kind of blown away. We were like, wow, you know, this is actually really good. We really like it. And, you know, that led us to make it a full band and to eventually do a second record, you know. Yeah, so, you know, it was a blessing in disguise, I guess you could say.
What I really like, what you said, the Hellhammer or Celtic Frost influences, you can hear them definitely here on that mix with punk. It's a really great combination, which I really, really like.
Thank you.
And I asked myself how it is to write with his father music, and maybe think about my father wrote legendary records, and is it also like that he teach you something, or maybe you came up with ideas? So how, maybe you can explain it. If I would sit in your rehearsal, maybe how would a regular rehearsal session look like?
You know, it's funny because I think we both taught each other things, because we're both self-taught. You know, neither of us ever had lessons. You know, he never had guitar lessons as a kid. I never had guitar lessons as a kid. When I first started playing, I told him no. You know, I was like, don't show me anything. I want to figure this out. I want to find the notes that sound good to me. And you know, by the time we did this, I'd been playing for about 13 or 15 years or so. So I was an experienced player, you know. I knew what to do, how to achieve the sounds that I wanted to go for. You know, and then, yeah, when it came to the actual rehearsals, it was very fluent, actually. You know, one of us would have the starting idea of a song, and then we would kind of pass it back and forth, you know. It'd be like, oh, okay, that's how you want to start it? What if we went into this? And then, you know, like I said, it was kind of like playing tennis with each other a little bit, you know, passing the ideas back and forth. You know, and that first record was actually a little bit harder to make because I think we were still figuring out the sound and figuring out the influences and what we wanted to do. And, you know, some of those songs we made 5 or 6 different versions before we finally settled on one. You know, but the rehearsals were fun. You know, it was definitely it was a creative thing, and we have very different writing styles, which that's where I think we were kind of teaching each other. You know, he had all of his experience, and I guess you could say his identity and his sound, and then I had mine, and we were just kind of putting them together, you know, just, you know, there wasn't much of a plan. It was sort of just like, hey, I came up with this riff yesterday, let's do something with it, you know, and then, you know, you just keep building upon it. And, you know, it was fun, actually. You know, sometimes writing can be a little stressful. It can be, you know, a little, it takes a lot of determination and stuff to finish sometimes. But this session was actually, it was so smooth and enjoyable. And, you know, we were laughing and cracking jokes and kind of, you know what I mean? It was a fun time. And like I said, having all that free time during the pandemic, just, you know, it was like, what better way to spend this time than in the room just bouncing ideas back and forth, you know?
What I really like when it comes to the new record, it's out since 4 or 5 weeks, I guess, around that. You released a music video for Drug or Cop.
Yeah.
And I have to think about that because I see your father, for instance, and this is a music video which is more of irony or fun. And if I think of music videos of your father, they are always like angry, tough, and evil, and now you're making fun. So this kind of, let me say, theme is also something a lot of bands doing that.
Yeah.
But what was the reason to do something, let me say, in this way, and not like, let's do something serious and
I think it was precisely that, actually, is that most videos do end up being very serious. And, you know, even the ones we did on the first record for Truckload Full of Bodies and the GAD, the other song that we did a video for, you know, very good videos, very fun to make, but yeah, very serious, you know, very, you know, metal, very, you know, we're tough, we're this and that. And, you know, I asked my dad, I was like, hey man, you've been making music videos for, you know, 30, 35 years or so. You've never done kind of a comedy one, you know, a parody. You know, why don't we play with that idea a little bit? And, yeah, you know, the song Drug Cop was, you know, once again, it's inspired by the police corruption you know, not only in America but around the world.
Yeah.
You know, it's an abuse of power that happens everywhere. And you know, the idea was basically, yeah, let's dress up like cops and let's go do dirty stuff and let's get it on film. And you know, that was actually one of the funnest videos I've ever done because of the comedy of it and the humor and everything. And you know, I mean, seeing my dad stick his face into a pile of flour to make it look like drugs, I knew that was something that nobody had ever seen, and nobody. Because he's a very funny guy. I don't think a lot of people know that. You know, his music's very serious and his demeanor is generally, you know, very serious, but he's actually a very funny guy. And, you know, we love watching comedy movies and laughing and doing stuff like that. So, you know, my idea was like, let's do that, but with the music video, and let's kind of get out of our comfort zone a little bit, you know? And, you know, one of my best friends filmed it, my buddy Cody Long. He's actually a professional skateboard video, you know, filmer. And to have all of these, you know, close friends, family, you know, my girlfriend is in it. Some of my best friends are in it that I grew up with. It was this whole different experience, you know. It kind of, it took some of that pressure off of, you know, let's be serious, let's try to do this dark metal crazy kind of thing. And it was like, let's just have fun and be silly kind of thing. And I think it's good for people to see that, you know. It's another side of me and another side of Max that I don't think a lot of people know about. You know, we're both pretty humorous guys, and we like to have fun and we like to laugh and do stuff like that. So that, you know, that video was actually, once again, a very natural, fluid thing to create. It was a lot of fun.
What I really like is also the topics, and you can see it here on the artwork, because you are reflecting the society, also political topics, and also in general your whole family. When you are doing music, it's also something which is coming over and over again. When you think in general in metal or other metal bands, do you think this is something which might be got a little bit lost during the couple of years, that bands singing about nothing against dragons and mountains, etc., but more like not reflecting society, or standing on a stage or say something simple like fuck racism, for instance, something like that. Do you see also something like that, or what are your thoughts about that they are not so, let me say, critical with their surrounding?
Yeah, you know, I think a big part of it is time and place and setting and things like that. You know, not all music should be that, just as not all music should be, you know, fiction, dragons and things like that. I mean, I have a band called Healing Magic, which gets more into the fantasy, mythology and things like that. And like I said, you know, I think it's all time and place, and particularly for these records, 2020 was a crazy year for politics, for the pandemic, the George Floyd incident, the election that year, everything going on. It was hard not to write about that, and it was difficult not to write about that. And for me personally, I wanted to write about my life and the world that I'm seeing and the way that I see it, and my perception of things. And I do think music is very important to use as your voice, you know, and it is a way that you can change people's minds, and it is a way that you can open people up to a broader spectrum of thinking and seeing the world and changing. And you know, somebody in South America might be dealing with a similar problem that we're seeing. Someone here in Germany might be dealing with a similar problem that we are going through in America. And to me, that was what was so cool about it, is that it's a universal. There's a connection to it all. It's something that anyone anywhere in the world can feel and enjoy and experience. And you know, like I said, not every band needs to do it, and not every album is that idea, you know, but I think particularly with this band and the influences we were taking, you know, particularly from the punk side of things, it was, let's put the middle finger up to all of this. Let's say fuck you to the racists. Let's say fuck you to the sexists and everything out there, you know, because to me, metal, punk music should be inclusive. And Nobody should be excluded from doing it, you know, unless you are a bigot like that. And that's the only reason anybody should not be allowed, is if they're, someone with a dirty, gross mind who wants to abuse of it, you know. And to me, there's no stronger way to do that than to scream it into the microphone. And it was that music was the perfect way to do it for me, you know, and it was very important to me to do that.
My last question is, because I saw that you will do a tour in the US. Will you also come to Europe?
Oh, I absolutely think so. Yeah, no, we're it's funny, you know, we've been a band for 3 years now, but we've never toured. We've actually done one show ever. And yeah, so the US will be the first installment of the tour. And I hope by next summer we're going to be over here. But if not, we will be there sometime soon. And yeah, we plan to do a full circuit, hit as many countries as we can, as many cities as we can, and bring this loud, angry music to you out there.
Also Leute, ihr habt's gehört, die Band, die kommt definitiv auf Tour. Es ist nur eine Frage der Zeit. In dem Sinne, vielen lieben Dank, dass ihr eingeschaltet habt. Schaut mal unten in die Kommentare rein, dort habe ich euch alles weitere verlinkt. In dem Sinne, gehabt euch wohl, wir sehen uns beim nächsten Mal wieder. Igor, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much too.
See you guys. Bye bye.
It's a pleasure.
Moshpit passion, for the passion of the music.